In a world that moves at relentless speed, where notifications pull at our attention and crises seem to arrive daily, the idea of remaining calm regardless of circumstances feels almost mythical. Yet in Japanese culture, there exists a centuries-old approach to life that treats calmness not as an innate gift, but as a cultivated skill. This approach draws from a tapestry of philosophies, Zen Buddhism, Shinto traditions, Bushido codes, and modern mindfulness practices, that together form a unique way of relating to life's turbulence. In Japanese thought, calmness is not the absence of action or emotion, but the ability to respond without being carried away by inner storms. It is an active state, requiring awareness, self-discipline, and a certain acceptance of reality as it is. The word haijishin means a steady heart or a constant mind. It suggests that stability is possible even amid chaos, and that peace can be carried within like a portable sanctuary. Historically, this philosophy was not limited to monks or poets. Samurai warriors trained to maintain composure in the face of mortal danger. Artisans embodied calm through the meticulous patience of their craft. Tea masters transformed the act of serving tea into a ritual of serenity. In each of these roles, calmness was more than a personal comfort. It was a source of clarity and strength. One of the key insights of the Japanese path to calm is the recognition that life is inherently impermanent. Cherry blossoms, celebrated each spring, are admired precisely because they fall so soon. This awareness of impermanence, known as mono no aware, teaches that clinging to any moment, whether joyful or painful, is futile. When we release our grip on how we wish life would be, we can meet it as it is, with a steadier heart. Another cornerstone is the practice of mindfulness, which in Japan is not confined to meditation cushions. Mindfulness is woven into everyday acts, arranging flowers, preparing food, walking through a garden. These activities are performed slowly and deliberately, with full attention to the present moment. This attentiveness reduces the mind's tendency to race ahead into worries or backward into regrets, anchoring it in the only place where calm is possible, the here and now. Calmness in the Japanese sense is also deeply tied to one's physical center, referred to as Hara, located in the lower abdomen. Martial artists are trained to move and breathe from this center, cultivating a grounded presence. Breathing deeply into the Hara not only steadies the body, but also sends a signal to the nervous system that it is safe, countering the body's stress response. Importantly, the Japanese approach to calm does not deny emotion. Sadness, anger, and fear are seen as natural parts of the human experience. What matters is not eradicating them, but learning to hold them gently, without letting them dictate one's actions. This balance of acceptance and discipline can be seen in the concept of gamen, enduring with patience and dignity, even when under pressure. In a practical sense, cultivating imperturbability involves training the mind much as one would train a muscle. Short daily rituals, sitting quietly in the morning, drinking tea without distractions, taking a mindful walk, are small exercises that, over time, strengthen our capacity for calm. The Japanese way values these small, consistent efforts, understanding that transformation happens not in grand gestures, but in the accumulation of quiet moments. In modern life, adopting this path does not require moving to a monastery or abandoning responsibilities. It begins with a shift in perspective, seeing calmness not as a luxury for when life is easy, but as an essential skill for navigating life when it is not. It is a commitment to carrying a steady heart through rush hour traffic, workplace tensions, and personal challenges alike. The Japanese path of calm reminds us that serenity is not found in controlling the world, but in cultivating the ability to remain centered regardless of what the world does. It is about becoming the still point in a turning world, the quiet center from which wise action can emerge. As we step onto this path, we begin to discover that calm is not somewhere out there to be found. It is something we carry, something we build, and something we choose moment by moment. The Japanese word Mugen carries with it a quiet poetry, often translated as infinite or limitless. It also suggests a kind of boundless inner space, a mental and emotional expanse untouched by the turbulence of daily life. This is not a void in the sense of emptiness, but a vastness where clarity and peace can exist without disturbance, like the still depths of a lake far below the reach of wind-driven ripples. In the context of cultivating calm, Mugen represents the state in which external events may create noise at the surface of our awareness, but our core remains unmoved. Imagine a storm raging above the ocean while, hundreds of meters below, the water is silent and serene. The surface changes constantly, but the depth is unshaken. In Japanese philosophy, this depth is accessible to everyone, but reaching it requires both intention and practice. Mugen is not about retreating from the world or building walls to keep chaos out. Rather, it is about expanding one's inner capacity so that life's inevitable waves no longer overwhelm. This expansion begins with awareness, learning to observe one's thoughts and emotions without immediate reaction. In Zen practice, this is often compared to sitting on the bank of a river, watching the water flow past without jumping in. Thoughts come and go like leaves on the current, but we do not have to be swept away by them. One way to develop this inner expanse is through conscious slowing down. Modern life trains us to respond instantly, to messages, to notifications, to every perceived problem. But Mugen grows when we deliberately create pauses. Before replying to a difficult email, take 3 deep breaths. Before reacting to a frustrating comment, let silence fill the space for a moment. These micro-pauses act like openings in the mind, allowing perspective to enter where impulse might otherwise rule. Another dimension of Mugen is the ability to hold multiple perspectives without rushing to collapse them into a single conclusion. In our hurry for certainty, we often cling to quick judgments, but this narrows the mind's space. By tolerating ambiguity and remaining open to complexity, we create mental room where understanding can deepen. This mental spaciousness is not passive. It is active listening, careful observation, and deliberate patience. The cultivation of Mugen also draws upon physical awareness. Practices like Tai Chi, Aikido, and traditional Japanese archery train practitioners to maintain balance and centeredness even when in motion or under pressure. The body becomes a reminder of the mind's capacity to remain still within movement. When our posture is grounded and our breath steady, it becomes easier to maintain a sense of inner infinity. Importantly, Mugen does not promise immunity from pain or difficulty. Life will continue to present loss, disappointment, and uncertainty. But within the spaciousness of Mugen, these experiences can be met without panic, without the desperate clinging or resistance that magnifies suffering. Pain may still arrive, but it will pass through an inner landscape wide enough to hold it without being broken by it. In daily life, nurturing Mugen can be as simple as creating quiet moments for reflection. Stepping outside to feel the air on your face, sitting in stillness before beginning the day, or walking without headphones to listen to the world as it is. Over time, these moments accumulate, deepening the reservoir of calm until it becomes a natural refuge. To embody Mugen is to live as though one carries an ocean within, an ocean so vast that no wave can shake its depths. It is to move through the world with a sense of quiet immensity, responding to life not from the agitated surface, but from the still and limitless space within. In the Japanese understanding of body and mind, Hara refers to the physical and energetic center located in the lower abdomen, a few inches below the navel. It is not merely an anatomical reference, but a profound concept that unites posture, breath, awareness, and emotional resilience. To live from the Hara is to anchor oneself in a stable core from which clarity, calm, and power naturally flow. Historically, Hara has been central in martial arts, tea ceremony, calligraphy, and even in everyday Japanese etiquette. Samurai warriors trained to fight, move, and make decisions from the Hara. This was not only about physical balance, though in combat that balance could mean life or death, but also about the mental stillness and emotional control that emerge when one is rooted in this inner center. Physiologically, focusing on the Hara engages the body's center of gravity, creating a grounded physical presence. When we breathe deeply into the lower abdomen, the diaphragm moves fully, oxygenating the body and stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. This helps shift us away from fight or flight reactivity into a state of calm readiness. In contrast, shallow chest breathing reinforces tension, anxiety, and instability. The Hara is also a metaphor for courage and integrity. In Japanese expressions, having a strong Hara means being steadfast, unwavering under pressure, and true to one's principles even in difficulty. This inner fortitude comes from being connected to something deeper than passing emotions or fleeting thoughts. It is rooted in the core of our being. Training the Hara begins with body awareness. Stand with feet shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, and shoulders relaxed. Place your hands gently over your lower abdomen. As you inhale, let the belly expand naturally. As you exhale, feel the breath sink down, as though the air itself is settling into your center. Over time, this practice conditions the body and mind to remain steady even when external situations demand quick action. In martial arts like Aikido, the Hara is the source of both power and flexibility. Techniques work not through brute strength, but through movement that radiates from the center, allowing practitioners to redirect force with grace and efficiency. In daily life, the same principle applies. When we respond from our center, our actions are more deliberate, measured, and effective. Living from the Hara also reshapes our relationship to stress. When challenges arise, we tend to react from the head, with thoughts spinning and emotions surging. But if we drop our awareness down into the Hara, the storm quiets. From this grounded place, decisions are made with greater clarity, and emotions, though still present, lose their ability to destabilize us. There is a deep connection between Hara and presence. People who live from their Hara seem calm, trustworthy, and solid, not because they are unfeeling, but because they are rooted. Their presence naturally influences others, creating a sense of safety and stability in groups, workplaces, or families. This is why leaders in Japanese tradition, whether in battle or in the arts, were often judged by the strength of their Hara. Cultivating Hara is not something that happens overnight. It is built through daily habits, mindful breathing, balanced posture, intentional movement, and the practice of staying connected to your center during both calm and crisis. Over time, this becomes second nature, transforming how you stand, walk, speak, and respond to life. In the end, the Hara is more than a point in the body. It is a way of being. It is the anchor that keeps us steady when waves rise, the root from which strength and grace grow. To live from the Hara is to move through the world with a quiet, grounded power that no passing storm can uproot. In Japanese culture, Ma is the space between things, the silence between musical notes, the empty room before guests arrive, the stillness in conversation before words resume. It is not simply an absence. It is an active, living presence that shapes everything around it. Ma is the breath that gives life to movement, the pause that gives meaning to sound, the stillness that gives weight to action. When it comes to cultivating calm, Ma teaches us that life is not just about what we do, but about the spaces we allow. In a world that demands constant activity, Ma invites us to slow down, to honor the intervals, to embrace emptiness as something essential rather than something to be avoided. Consider a traditional Japanese garden. The beauty lies not only in the stones, plants, and water features, but also in the empty spaces between them. These gaps allow the elements to breathe, to be appreciated fully. In music, the same principle applies. A pause can be more powerful than a note, giving the listener a moment to absorb and feel. Without Ma, everything would blur into noise. In our daily lives, the absence of Ma can leave us feeling breathless and overwhelmed. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded by messages, tasks, and demands for our attention. Without intentional pauses, we live in a constant state of reaction, our inner rhythm dictated by external pressures. Ma is the antidote. It restores autonomy over our pace, letting us move through life with deliberation rather than haste. Practicing Ma can be deceptively simple. It might mean pausing for a single deep breath before answering the phone, taking a moment to look out the window before replying to an email, or allowing silence to linger in a conversation instead of rushing to fill it. These small moments create openings where awareness can deepen and clarity can emerge. Ma is not about withdrawing from life. It is about enriching it. By consciously creating space, we allow our minds and bodies to reset. Neuroscience supports this. Periods of stillness give our brains time to integrate experiences, consolidate memory, and recover from overstimulation. Without these pauses, we risk decision fatigue, emotional burnout, and creative stagnation. There is also an interpersonal dimension to Ma. In Japanese communication, silences are often used intentionally, signaling respect, thoughtfulness, and attentiveness. In Western contexts, silence can feel uncomfortable, but when embraced, it can foster deeper listening and more meaningful connections. By resisting the urge to fill every gap with words or action, we create room for others to be heard and understood. In art and design, Ma is essential to balance and harmony. The principle applies equally to life design. Without space, even the most beautiful elements lose their impact. A life without Ma becomes crowded, chaotic, and directionless. A life with Ma has rhythm, proportion, and grace. To bring Ma into your life, start by noticing the transitions, the moments between activities, between breaths, between thoughts. Instead of rushing through them, let them stretch just a little longer. Over time, these pauses become natural, and your inner rhythm will slow to a pace that feels sustainable and steady. Ma is the subtle art of doing nothing, and in that nothing, everything can change. It is the silence that allows your inner voice to be heard, the stillness in which your deepest strength can grow. In a noisy, restless world, Ma is the quiet space where you can return to yourself, again and again, without being swept away. Ganbaru is a Japanese term that carries a spirit much deeper than its surface translation of to do one's best or to persevere. It is an ethos that calls for enduring effort, unwavering determination, and the willingness to keep moving forward despite difficulty, discomfort, or uncertainty. Ganbaru is about more than simply enduring. It is about engaging fully with the challenge at hand, no matter how steep the climb. In Japanese culture, Ganbaru is woven into everyday life. It appears in the student who studies late into the night for exams, the athlete who trains despite exhaustion, the artisan who spends decades perfecting a craft. It is the quiet determination that refuses to yield to discouragement. This is not a loud, forceful resolve. Rather, it is a steady, almost humble commitment to keep going. Resilience, in the spirit of Ganbaru, is not about denying hardship or pretending it doesn't hurt. It is about accepting the pain, acknowledging the challenge, and still choosing to act. This makes Ganbaru profoundly different from blind stubbornness. It is not fueled by pride alone, but by purpose. One of the key aspects of Ganbaru is that it often operates without immediate reward. The process itself becomes the focus, not the outcome. In the West, success is frequently measured by results, but in the mindset of Ganbaru, the act of continuing is itself a victory. This perspective shifts our relationship with adversity. Challenges become opportunities to demonstrate inner strength, not just obstacles to overcome. To live with Ganbaru requires patience. There will be times when progress is invisible, when your efforts seem fruitless, when the temptation to quit whispers loudly. This is when the practice deepens. By continuing to show up, to the training, to the project, to the difficult conversation, you are reinforcing your own capacity to endure. Each small act of persistence becomes a brick in the foundation of resilience. The practice of Ganbaru can be cultivated through intentional habits. Start by setting small, consistent goals that align with your values. Commit to them fully, even when motivation fades. When faced with setbacks, pause to acknowledge your feelings, then return to the task. Avoid comparing your pace to others. Ganbaru is a deeply personal journey, measured not against external timelines, but against your own capacity to keep going. Ganbaru also emphasizes community. In Japan, collective resilience is often as important as individual determination. People come together to rebuild after natural disasters, to support struggling neighbors, to cheer for each other's efforts. This shared spirit magnifies the power of perseverance. When you know others are enduring alongside you, your own resolve strengthens. In daily life, embracing Ganbaru means approaching challenges with a steady, deliberate mindset. Whether you are dealing with personal loss, a career setback, or a long-term project, the question is not how quickly can I get through this, but how can I continue moving forward, step by step, without losing heart? Ganbaru does not promise that the road will be easy, nor does it guarantee success in the conventional sense. What it does offer is a kind of inner peace, the knowledge that you have given yourself fully to the path, regardless of where it leads. In this way, the spirit of Ganbaru transforms hardship into a proving ground for character. Ultimately, Ganbaru is not just about resilience, it is about identity. To live with Ganbaru is to see yourself as someone who meets life with endurance and grace. It is to stand in the midst of trials and say, without arrogance but with quiet certainty, I will keep going. In that commitment lies a power that no obstacle can take away. Inner balance is not something we achieve once and keep forever. It is an ongoing practice, a dynamic state that must be cultivated and maintained. Just as physical fitness requires consistent exercise, emotional and mental equilibrium require intentional daily habits. In Japanese philosophy, balance is not about eliminating stress or conflict entirely. Those are inevitable, but about learning to meet them with steadiness, clarity, and grace. A balanced mind is like a calm lake. It reflects the world clearly, but is not disturbed by every passing ripple. This stillness is not passive. It is the result of active, mindful choices made repeatedly over time. The Japanese way of cultivating this involves both structured practices and subtle shifts in the way we approach each day. One of the most foundational practices is mindful breathing. Setting aside even a few minutes each morning to sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on the slow rhythm of your breath can anchor you in the present moment. This not only calms the nervous system, but also trains your awareness to remain steady even when external events grow chaotic. Another key element is ritual. In Japanese culture, rituals are woven into daily life. The tea ceremony, seasonal festivals, even the way one arranges a workspace. These repeated, intentional acts create a sense of order and grounding. You can bring this into your own life by establishing small rituals. Brewing tea with care, journaling at the same time each evening, or taking a short walk after lunch to clear your mind. Physical environment plays a powerful role in maintaining balance. A cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind, while a clean and thoughtfully arranged environment can foster calm. This is why the Japanese concept of minimalism goes beyond aesthetics. It is a tool for mental clarity. Make a habit of tidying your surroundings at the start and end of each day. This simple act can create a sense of completion and readiness. Nature is another vital source of balance. Even in urban settings, the Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, reminds us to connect with the natural world. Spending time outdoors, observing the changing light, feeling the wind on your face. These experiences draw you out of mental noise and back into harmony with the present. Reflection is equally important. Take a few moments before bed to review your day without judgment. Acknowledge moments of tension and moments of peace. Ask yourself what supported your balance and what disrupted it. Over time, this awareness will help you make more intentional choices. Balancing work and rest is another principle that requires conscious effort. In a culture that often glorifies overwork, it can be radical to rest fully. Yet without proper restoration, your inner balance will inevitably erode. Schedule time for true rest, not just passive distraction, but activities that renew you, such as reading, creating art, or enjoying a quiet meal. Community and connection also sustain balance. Surround yourself with people who support your growth and share your values. Offer your presence fully when you are with them, listening deeply and speaking with intention. Healthy relationships act as mirrors, helping you maintain perspective. Finally, patience is essential. Inner balance is not a destination, but a lifelong journey. Some days will feel effortless, while others will test your stability. The key is to return to your practices again and again, knowing that each small choice builds resilience. Through daily breathing, ritual, simplicity, nature, reflection, rest, and connection, you create the conditions for balance to flourish. Over time, these practices become second nature, and your inner calm will no longer depend on the absence of storms. It will be the steady light that guides you through them.